Welcome to the Creative Condition Podcast, the show where I, Ben Talon, illustrator and writer, invite people from the creative industry and far beyond to share their story of creativity. Both the nature and the nurture, the chaos and the calm. Creativity is a fundamental pillar of human happiness, something I'm increasingly fascinated by and so often misunderstood. So little by little, I hope to build an archive of fascinating stories, experiences and tips to help you maximise yours. The show is supported by Illustration X. Go and take a look at their incredible global range of illustration and animation portfolios now at illustrationx.com. If you like the music for the show, go and listen to Dirty Freud over on Spotify and all good music platforms now. Today I'm joined by Egle Karalyte. Egle, together with her team, has helped elevate such brands as Cooper, DesignIt, Fotolia, Adobe, MTV Lebanon, The New School, Paris Telecom Incubator, and Google Campus London. She works closely with brands to help them work out their strategy, and she's now about to release the Bloomerang game, which is fascinating, and I wanted to talk to Egle about why a game. What was this unique method of divination, shall we say, to help people work out their place under the sun or work on a focused branding strategy? It's an interesting chat with someone who's travelled all around the world working with people and their creativity. Hello and welcome to the show. How are you doing? I hope you're well. I hope you're feeling good. All those beautiful spring flowers out there, giving some vibrancy and some colour to a world that can feel a little grey and angry at times at the moment. I hope you're good. Big run of episodes coming up soon, so we've got too much to talk about here. But I have got some people in my telescopic lens that might just be the 200th episode. So I don't want to put too much on it. I don't like putting too much pressure on numbers and anniversaries and all that stuff, because you can end up thinking beyond the angle and the idea and more about the name, which is what I don't want to do with this show. But there's stuff coming up, there's stuff in the pipeline. I've got so many episodes in the bag and I don't want to bombard you guys with them too much, but the show is growing all the time. It's very exciting. Thank you if you've been giving feedback. Please do that as ever at Ben Talon or at Ben Talon Pod on social. It always means a lot when you get in touch to say something kind or speak to me about a certain show. It's always a big love of why I do this, because I like to connect with you all. So please do keep doing that. Hello at bentalon.com. If you want to do that privately, that's absolutely fine by me. So what have you been up to? This week I've been I was in a secondary school, or a high school if you're listening from America. That was fun. That was hilarious. There was a moment when there was 3 year 10 girls in the front row in this, big kind of sports hall type setup where I was talking about my career and about the creative industry for people primarily studying art and graphics, but it was very interesting. And 3 girls burst out laughing in the front row and it momentarily threw me. And when I got myself back on track and turned around, I went from thinking it was some in-joke I hadn't heard about or some sarcastic comment to realising that there it was, kind of 8 foot by 6 foot up on the screen was a massive "your mum" from my book, which is what had absolutely unravelled them. And it got worse when we got in the classroom and they started opening pages within the book and these crude illustrations of body parts, shall we say, and asking me to explain. So that was fun and games. But it was all good stuff. It was all good fun. And I love getting in and just, hoping to form a bit more of a ladder between school and the creative industry, because let's face it, not much has moved forward in terms of knowledge of the industry. It has a little bit. So the teaching there was great and they were way more clued up. The very fact that illustrators and designers were getting brought in to talk about this stuff shows that there has been progress. And maybe, when I was at school in the 90s, maybe that was going on at some schools, but certainly not at ours, and I had no idea about the creative industry. So that was fun. Tell me what you've been up to. Come and get in touch. Always happy to do that. Big thank you to the support of the show, as you heard at the beginning. Illustration X recently became a B Corp, which is awesome. Doing great things on the ethical front. I've got pretty clever coming up. A studio in Bournemouth who recently became a B Corp, and they have got some incredible stories. Such a great journey story behind that studio too, so they're worth checking out in the meantime. A little bit of homework for you. So let's get into today's guest, Egle Karalyte. Egle is very interesting. She works with people as a brand strategist, but also with a team of people. Broad range of stuff that she's going to get into today, and she's about to release the Bloomerang game, which is really, really interesting stuff. And it says, whether you are creating a brand, an art piece, or simply searching for your way under the sun, Bloomerang supports all creators no matter where you are in your adventure. Let's play. So we're going to talk about that. Why a game? What an interesting model. That's why I wanted to chat to her. What an interesting format to help people get some guardrails and some parameters in place when it comes to understanding creativity, which is, as we know, an ongoing issue. I've been writing about that in depth in The Creative Condition, which is nearing a first draft stage. It's a monster. But this is a really clever format, as she's going to tell us why. I hope you enjoy. Let us know your thoughts. And if any of you've played, get in touch and let me know, because I'd love to hear some user experience. There are people's accounts of it on the website if you go and check it out over at Karalyte. That's spelled KARALYTE.com. /Bloomerang for the info on the game, so do go and have a look. I think Egle is out there now in Germany, I believe, doing some test runs on the game and launching it. Very exciting times for her. But I hope you enjoy this one. It's something a little different, and I really love chatting to her. Check out the founding sponsor, illustrationx.com, for all their amazing illustration and animation portfolios. But that all said, let's get into the chat. Get us your feedback. Enjoy the show.
Well, I had a lot of freedom in my childhood. I was most of the summers kind of left on my own at my grandmother's, who was very creative, and she lived sort of in the countryside. So I was always kind of in the garden, singing and chatting with the trees and fairies and all other things that I felt were around me. And I used to love eating a lot of cherries and doing some crafts. So yeah, it was I think very playful and freedom-full childhood. Also, since I'm originally from Lithuania, where I grew up, there are lots of lakes and water here, so we used to also go camping and swimming in lakes. And I would say, it's kind of carefree, nature-full childhood without too much expectations from my parents.
That's wonderful, actually. I was having that conversation today with my wife because I'm writing a non-fiction book called The Creative Condition at the moment.
Interesting.
And I'm currently editing the chapter about the unconscious, and it's just fascinating. The research I've been doing and to support what I always felt instinctively about the need for downtime and the need to allow whatever the sensory input is to marinate and to come back through. And I find that particularly interesting in childhood because we don't yet have, or we shouldn't yet have, the pressures put on us to do anything other than what you just described.
When we're children, yes, I think so.
Yeah. So would it be safe to say you had a lot of time to kind of explore your world and dream and feel that magic?
Yeah, I think I'm still living that way with a bit more responsibilities now, of course, to pay the bills and, and all my team and all that. But I think that spirit with which I grew up is still alive. And that curiosity that I had about everything in life, I think still exists, which I'm very happy about. So
that's really great to hear, actually, because that's the kind of what I go on to write about, is that idea of we make but a lot of people make a fundamental mistake because of the pressures of exams and stability and all these kind of traps for that
Yeah,
that youthful,
exactly.
energized spirit. I think, yeah, just too many people make the mistake of separating the magic of childhood with from creative careers, you know. And if creativity cannot link to that, then what is it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the same stands even if when we grow up, and if we make always choices in life when we are adults based on stability, just, and security and all that, which I understand I needed, with that, it's also difficult to be creative. You need that sort of foundation to fall back on, but it's not what should make the primary decisions, so I think that magic that can remain in life, even when we are adults. So as long as we kind of live life based on that inner impulse, and we don't let that impulse die or be neglected for too long.
I think you're right.
So
I started to see it as almost a twin journey, you know. So you have the we live in a capitalist society, so of course we have to pay
yeah,
bills and whatever else our constraints are. But I think if we're mindful of keeping the very pure magical line as close together with that one as we can, then I think
yeah,
we probably are happier and make better decisions when it comes to creativity.
exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
So, could you paint us a little picture of where you are now?
Yeah. Like career wise, you mean
Yeah.
creativity wise? Yeah. Well, I've just launched a game called the Bloomerang game, which is designed to activate creativity. And it's a huge game, like board game. It's like 150 centimeters wide. So it's like goes on the whole table, and it's now we have like a tablet in driven control for it as well. So multiple people can play at the same time. And the whole idea is to just, through this game, enable people to reconnect with exactly that inner, drive, inner magic, inner child, whatever you want to call it, that inner spark that really drives us in life. And to see, how we can then create and move on in life driven from that, and not from what maybe others are expecting or wanting. So it's both like a self-reflection and ideation and general kind of creativity boosting game. And it has three use cases. One is for people who are still searching for their way under the sun, or at the kind of the crossroads before they want to make a transition. Second is more like a brand transformation game, or if you are developing a brand and want to elevate it, take it to the next level. And then the third use case is a team cohesiveness game. So for teams who want to a bit kind of harmonize and calibrate better towards moving towards the same goal. So that's the game, and it's it's kind of since I've been a digital nomad for quite a few years. It's a huge board, but I've made it so that it packs up in a luggage, so you can be also this Mary Poppins like character, And yeah, I'm actually on Wednesday going to Berlin to present it at Berlin Design Week. And then I'll be going to Lisbon to present it at Lisbon Creativity Week. And then after that, I'll be going to Barcelona to also present it at some co-working spaces. So like lots of stuff is happening.
That's incredible, and I find the game format really interesting. Was that always the
Yeah.
plan, or was this an idea you had, and then it turned out that the game format housed the idea effectively?
Well, I was doing a lot of workshops in my life. I used to run a design agency when I lived in Paris. And that was at the time when I got into doing workshops, and I really enjoyed it. And, it took me quite a few years to perfect the workshops. I was doing them on design, then about kind of branding, and worked with a lot of entrepreneurs in Paris and London at Google Campus London, for example, where I helped them to kind of crystallize their ideas and build a branding system for them. So my workshops were always, I love doing them, and I just kind of kept evolving them, and I developed then ideation tools to support these workshops. And then I was like, okay, once I developed these tools, that was kind of the output of the lockdown period. I felt like I want to move out of the traditional workshop format and come up with something new and different. And I loved also creating games, but I kind of never really put that to practice. And then I thought, okay, maybe now is the time to see if using these tools I've developed, using, what I see works in workshops and what people are looking for, can I kind of just almost tear everything apart and then rebuild it in a new way. And that's how the game was born. The game idea was born. So I was inspired by it. Really came very naturally. Just kind of things fell into their place, and I thought, okay, then I did a few test runs, and I'm like, okay, it's working. And then we built this big game board that's was also very innovation driven process, because nothing like that exists. So we needed to come up with kind of ways to make it big but make it portable and make it all those so I think at this point that I'm happy with where we are, and now I'm ready to share it with the world. So
I love that. It's very, very inspiring. And in particular, I find, so I used to live with a school teacher who was a primary school, and we had many conversations about our kind of hang-ups about the education system and the mistakes in terms of these very stagnant environments where it was old school teaching. Is there an aspect of the interactivity with this game? Do you think some of its power is drawn from that? Because I just from personal experience, when we're energized and when we're engaged with the topic we're learning about, and the very thing of taking actions and being physically involved, is that a major kind of hook for this game?
Yeah, exactly. Like my workshops before were pretty methodological, like process driven, and that's how I did it. I knew it worked, but I felt it's like a very rigid, even if there was an element of play, and but I still felt like that kind of step-by-step format is not always how people think. It's like, it's how I think, but it's not necessarily how people think. So once I kind of said, let's just get rid of the process and even to get rid of the steps that needs to be done in kind of one after another, incorporate these steps, but let people do them in whatever order they want and see what comes out of that. So in other words, I give them a blank canvas, I give them the tools, and I let them kind of connect with this life magic, and just throw a dice and see where this dice is gonna take you. And the magic does happen. Like, usually people get the question or the answer to the question at the exact point when they're ready for it. So with kind of taking out the process out, like that rigid method out, but leaving sort of it weaved in, but in a way that's kind of free exploration based, it makes the game be a complete playground. Just like you take children to the sandbox and let them do whatever they want, you just guide them and make sure they don't fall off and hurt themselves. So that's the exact approach I take right now with this game, is that Bloomerang game is like a playground where I invite people in. There are tools, there's a, but then they're free to use it in the way they want and build their dream using those tools. So, and it works. And I think once I sort of got to this stage that the game functions in this way, it's like, then the process becomes so much more individualized for people, and they take their time, and they sort of do it things in their own way, and you're just there to support them. And that's the beauty of it. So
I think that's very, very, very clever. I mean, yeah, that must have taken some real strategy from your point of view to make that work.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've been doing workshops for like 7-8 years before I embarked on this, but maybe not so much strategy work, but more like taking a risk to see that maybe things can work in a very different way as well, and just taking a risk to experiment, and get the answer that way. And then I saw it works, and I thought, okay, well, that's the answer.
Yeah. And what's great there too is because, you said it yourself, but people arrive places, I mean, yes, in the game, but also in life, people arrive places at the right time. And I think that's
exactly
what I've learned, is that creativity is on a unique timeline for everyone. And
exactly.
For some people, we can have a revelation inside a year, a week. Other people, it could be 10, 20, however many years. And it's, even your own story there of having to do the workshops and to sort of get there organically.
Yeah.
I think that's just what creativity does, because it's the sum of our life experiences and our internalization.
Exactly.
So I think that's amazing that you found a way to translate that into a game format within the, that people can really individualize that.
Exactly. So yeah, it's sort of a game that it's that person is invited to play the game, and through that get the answers they need, and do it in a sort of supported way, or like there's also a play it yourself version where you can kind of just come into a Bloomerang room or Bloomerang pop-up experience that I'm trying to roll out as well, and just take your time and and see where you're gonna get to through this game.
And what's the feedback been like?
Well, so far it's great. I think all people I've been talking to, they do appreciate the fact that it's a new concept and it's a new way of looking at self-reflection and general kind of brand or career planning, but yet it's sort of complete because there is a process within it. It's just that it's hidden. You don't feel it.
Yeah.
I'm just starting out, but I'm just kind of starting to roll it out. But so far, I think I'm getting very good feedback, so that's exciting.
That's fantastic. I mean, because the nature of creativity itself is very chaotic at times. I think, oftentimes it's hard to understand because it's so based on feeling and impulse and instinct and the unconscious and all these things that are a bit of a nightmare to theorize. So I think that, is it safe to say that a game like this provides just enough guardrails, let's say, to kind of give some structure?
Exactly, but not in the way that boxes you in or puts you in the corner. I think most creative people hate that, but it does give you the structure within which you can play. And yes, exactly. With creative people, we do need that, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very fascinating because it's in this very similar way, but a different format. Writing a book like the one that I'm writing, it's very similar, because I sort of sit down at my desk some days and it's like, right, okay, as the author, now I have to make sense of what I'm, that not only I'm feeling, but everyone's feeling, and everyone has a different spin on it. And that's why I think it's impressive with the game that you've been able to distill that into a workable format. And it's such a
Yeah.
challenge in terms of a book. It's like what goes where, because there are so many things that overlap within the.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
But that's, I think, in the process of writing, you need to crystallize, right? And then in the process, then put things in their places. But it does make sense that in different parts of the book, you would go back to an idea you've been exploring previously, right? Just maybe from another angle. So, yeah, that's part of creation,
it is
creating something.
it isn't it's yeah, I think it's magic. um
Yeah.
I think there was, I wanted to touch on the sort of the idea of booking trends, and
Mm-hmm.
I think so. You sort of talk about, there's NFTs going on. We've got AI now. There's a real,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever been so kind of, I don't know how to put it, either overwhelmed or enriched with all these many,
Technology.
yeah, with technology. I mean, the limitations seem to be lifting all the time. But, where, in terms of brand stories,
Mm-hmm.
is some of the work you do, is it part of your challenge to help people to understand just how deep to go in some of those areas and how to pull it together and make sense of that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I guess my primary mission when working with brands and with people who are building, sort of creating projects, is also to see, well, how far does the creator want to go, because the world changes all the time. There's like that, this trend or that trend, but and we can leverage it and use it for our advantage to kind of launch the project. But it's also for the creator to put the boundaries of, how far do you want to go in that and be associated with that. And, does your project and the people for whom you've created it, does, so is that the context for your project, or is this something completely different vibe, that that is not aligned with where you are taking, so if you're like a surf brand, like it's sort of a, yes, you can use maybe a bit of AI NFTs, but there is a certain, like, distance you will have that you're not gonna kind of fully dive into that. It's just not that sort of world. So for me, there's the challenge is always to help creators, yes, understand the trends, but also, to decide of like how far you want to ride that wave, and is that the way for you, or are you going to wait for something else, because I believe that I'm not a me too type of a mentality, like I don't bring that mentality to projects. So like I help creators to always look at things in a kind of authentic way, and see, well, is this aligned with what I'm trying to do and trying to create? If so, how far I want to ride that trend? And, at what point I'm going to jump on something else. So I'm going to jump off my board, because that's it. It's enough. So I think it's important to understand the trends, but it's also important not to get lost in them. Just because everybody else is doing it, it doesn't mean it's your wave, and you need to take it, because if you'll try to catch it and it's not to your capacity, you're just gonna, get tangled up. So I think you need to kind of, be excited, but not kind of lose your mind as well, and just to be like a good surfer, to just choose your ways wisely if you want to save your energy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I think you just, authenticity is probably the big takeaway.
Yeah.
I think that this is the thing, as I'm just turned 40, and I guess I trust my decisions more than I ever did, because
That's great.
I'm completely at peace with who I am and where I'm going and what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Beautiful.
Like we said before, you still have to take on certain work to pay the bills and all those things.
Yeah, of
But
course, that's normal.
that can be fun too, because ultimately when you have that authenticity and you're making decisions to give life to that,
Exactly.
then everything else, no matter how many pieces of technology or anything else, if it gives life to that, then they become no more than tools like anything else.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So exactly, you just need to see like, what is gonna be my position towards this, and how I'm gonna leverage, and in a way that takes me forward, and but not in the way that makes me get lost within it.
Yeah, become
So
too reliant. I think we're seeing that with social media these days, in that, you know, it's very easy to forget that we don't own our profiles on.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the change of an algorithm can lay waste to a lot of time if we rely on them too much.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's very important to have balance in life, and even if social media and internet is, it's are great platforms to connect with people and keep in touch with people and build communities. It's also important to just be grounded and know that, well, if it stops one day, my life doesn't end. That I will kind of do other things or
Mm-hmm.
continue creating in other ways. So it's
Yeah,
easy to forget that. It is easy to forget that. True.
it really is. So moving forward, are you the kind of person who has kind of certain ambitions? Are you responsive to what comes in front of you? Like, to what degree do you shape your journey forward as a creative?
Well, I think I'm now at this over the last 4 years, and even before I was like very driven and always putting lots of hours into what I do, and I had a goal to finish, the tools creating and to finish this game. So it was a very, very intense period. Now I'm in this phase of like, I feel like I've passed that milestone of, of hard work with like, like almost tunnel vision type of a period. And I can kind of just slow down a little bit and see where life is going to take me now, so not so much taking new things, but more like just sharing what I've done with people and seeing what's going to come out of that. So it's fun at this point. It was fun when I was creating, but it was more hard work, and now it's different kind of fun and more going out into the world, I guess.
Yeah, and it must be very exciting to know that you're helping people, by, like you say, it's a different dynamic to a workshop where you're
Yeah,
in
yeah,
person to some capacity, whether it's online or in person. To sort of put this thing into the world and know that it can be helping people without you needing to be there. That must be a great feeling.
it's not yet there in this way, but if once it will be there, yeah, it will. That's the dream, is to kind of, if it can work uh, and help people in different parts of the world, then I think Bloomerang is doing its mission. So
Yeah. And is it a kind of, is it international? Does it have a predominant language? How does it work in that regard?
it's all in English for now. We'll see how it will, like, what's going to be the feedback like. I do get requests from German speaking people and like Dutch, to translate the tools into local in these languages, Arabic as well. But I haven't gotten yet to that point. But if we'll, scale wise, it's gonna grow, and so then, yeah, I'll consider that. I think kind of to be as accessible, in the world to all kind of people, that was my dream when I was little as well. Like I always wanted to be kind of in the world, So, so we'll see if that's gonna happen. How far?
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, because you've had quite the journey. You've lived in a lot of places, having
Yeah, I've lived in 8 countries. Yeah.
yeah.
So last 4 years when I was just in one location, it was quite a new experience for me.
Yeah, and I imagine having done that, you will have a good sense, regardless of the language being English. I imagine you will have a great sense of, the lessons within the game and how they transcend
Yeah,
nationality and culture.
exactly. Yeah, like my workshops, when I was doing workshops, I was already doing them in different cities and, both in Europe, in North Africa, in Middle East. So like I got that sense on the workshop perspective, and I kind of universalized them as much as I was able to. So the game also already takes that into account, but of course it's a different format. So, maybe the way people play is also different. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe not the. I was a very competitive kid, and this doesn't sound like a game the game that would have me turning the board over in fury.
No, this is a game with yourself, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, actually, that's the biggest competition of all.
Yeah, is to get to know yourself better and see how you can be a better version of yourself, first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely, that's it. Brilliant. Well, what's the what's the planned schedule then for the game? When will it be available?
So the game, like there is like a home edition game that you can already get on my website. So like a sort of a box with all the tools and the playbook. So that can be already, bought right now online at Karalyte.com. And for the kind of live experience, so I'll be doing on May 16th in Berlin at Factory Berlin community, which is like one of the biggest innovators and creative communities in Berlin. I'll also be exhibiting in Berlin Design Week from May 10th to 13th. And then it's going to be in Lisbon from the week of 22nd to from May 22nd to 28th, I'll be in Lisbon at Creative Hub at Praça. There is going to be a pop-up experience and a game, I believe, on the 26th. I don't remember the dates, but if you would check Instagram account for Bloomerang.game, the dates will be announced there. So this is what's coming kind of, in the short term. And then as I have new dates, they will also be published on Instagram.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting, and I'm very, very curious and impressed by the whole.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So then, yeah,
my pleasure. Thank you so much to Egle for taking the time out of her busy schedule, traveling all over the place. I think she was in Lithuania at the time of conversation. I love talking to her. I love just varying it up and getting something new, and I haven't talked to too many people when it comes to games. I mean, especially, once you get outside of video games. So this was a good one, and I found that really fascinating, and I wouldn't mind having a little dabble myself. So let me know if you have. Let me know what you think of it. Would love your feedback at BenTalent or at BenTalentPod or hello@BenTalent.com if you want to hit me up privately. Big thank you to the founder and supporter of the show, Illustration X. Check out their illustration and animation global range of portfolios now at illustrationx.com. Hit them up on socials at WeAreIllustrationX. Loads of good stuff coming up. We've got Tom Hodgkinson, founder of The Idler. We've got Kieran Lewis, graphic designer, talking about many things coming up. We've got Stephanie Powell-Baxter, dancer, who has worked as a choreographer on Strictly, and she dances in the West End. We're going to be getting into physical activity and dance. And along those lines, we've also got Alex Judica coming up for a global level, world championship level in judo, talking about flow states in fight sports and that mentality. Apologies, that's sloppy. And crossovers between that and the arts. It's really, really interesting stuff. So I'm not going to prattle on too long. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Get us your feedback, please do. I'd love to hear. And if you get a chance, please do support the show by spreading the word, dropping a review either on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you want to do that. Please do it. It really helps, and subscriptions are really valuable too, so I would love it if you could do that. And get in touch. Best places are either on Instagram or LinkedIn on social media. They're my two most prominent social channels, or like I said, on the email hello@bentalon.com. Take care, guys. Have a great week. Stay creative.